Good evening. It's great to be here at Changing Hands Books. I remember I think it was the late 1990s or maybe even the mid 1990s when I went to the Changing Hands store on Mill Avenue. And it was right before my first trip to Mexico. So I went looking for all kinds of books about Mexico. And I remember sitting in the chairs there, like reading and reading and reading and reading. So I've always had a special affection for Changing Hands, even though I live in Tucson. I live a little south of here, but it's great to be here. My book, Border Patrol Nation: Front Lines from the Dispatches from the Front Lines of Homeland Security. This is my version of it. It came out two months ago, but my book probably looks like it came out 3 years ago. It's already fallen in water, and it's traveled around the Southwest a bit, up to Oregon, to Colorado. So I've been getting around, doing speaking events throughout, for the last couple months. But it's still a very new book. So I still consider it to be fresh off the presses, so to speak. The book is it's not only about the post 9/11 expansion of the U.S. Border Patrol. It's about the world that represents. And I looked at that expansion from many different angles, many different geographical angles and many different conceptual angles. And what the gist of it, there's a lot of storytelling. It's a book of reportage, meaning that I tell a lot of stories, but with those stories, I try to hit on big themes. And so in that spirit, I'd like to begin tonight's talk with a bit of storytelling. And I hope with this storytelling, I can explain the book well. I hope to talk for about 20 to 30 minutes and then give some time for some question and answer after that and discussion. So one of the places that I focus on in the book, among many, because I don't only look at the southern U.S. border with Mexico, I also look at the northern border. I spend time in Detroit, I spend time in Niagara Falls, I spend time in the Dominican Republic, I spend time in Puerto Rico. But one of the places is the Tohono O'odham Nation, and that's just to the south of here in Arizona. Are people here, has anybody been down to the Tohono O'odham reservation here? So several people have been down to there. And the Tohono O'odham reservation, yeah, just south. It's just south of Phoenix. Yeah, I'll explain a little bit about it in just a second. On one of my research trips, I went down with an elder of the Tohono O'odham Nation named David Garcia, and he's about 60 years old. He has long gray hair, and he wanted to show me the western side of the Tohono O'odham Nation and what was happening there. So we went to this very isolated, desolate region of border, but in the middle of the Sonoran Desert, and for people that don't know about the Tohono O'odham Nation, the reservation, it's actually the second largest reservation in the United States. It's the size of the state of Connecticut, so it's big. The only one bigger is the Navajo Nation. But one of the critical aspects of the Tohono O'odham Nation was that it was when the border was drawn there, the U.S.-Mexico border was drawn in 1853 there. It cut the aboriginal land of the Tohono O'odham in two. It bisected their land. So much of their land comes actually almost as far north as Phoenix, but it also goes hundreds and hundreds of miles into Mexico. So we went to the actual boundary line, and we're standing there, and it's desolate, but it's such a beautiful landscape, and it's late June, so it's about 110 degrees. It's one of those days in Arizona where you can practically hear the heat snapping. I'm sure everyone here knows about that. So we're looking at that beautiful saguaro, lots of saguaros, mountains in the distance. It's a beautiful landscape. And we're right at the borderline, and the border is demarcated by what are called vehicle barriers. These vehicle barriers are not an actual border wall. It's actually posts side by side by side, but it's meant to stop vehicles from crossing the border. The 70 miles that the Tonaultam Reservation shares with Mexico this is the wall or the barrier that's used there. And so we're standing there, and there's two places along this wall where there's a gate. And this is one of the places where David Garcia wanted to show me. So we get to this place. We step out of the car into that heat. And David Garcia, the Tonaultam elder, walks directly to the gate, and he opens it up. He didn't open it up because he wanted to go into Mexico. He didn't open it up because he was letting anyone in from Mexico. He just opened it up as if, as a Tonaultam person, this did not belong. So that's what I took from David when he did it. For me, I looked at him with a sense of bewilderment and then dread, because I knew by opening that gate, or I figured, or at least my paranoia was, that would attract the U.S. Border Patrol. Because what could it, they must have seen it somehow, right? There's 12,000 sensors, motion sensors, along the 2,000-mile Mexico border, implanted sensors under the ground. So did we step on one of those? Who knows? There's Predator. Did the Predator B drone overhead with its powerful cameras capture the fact that David opened up that gate? I don't know. Maybe. Did the Vader radar system that one of the drones has, and that the Vader system is called man-hunting radar technology used from Afghanistan to detect roadside bombers. One of the Predator B surveillance drones that the Border Patrol uses now has one of those to look for border crossers. Did one of those see us? Did at the Border Security Expo, which is an exposition that sells different technologies for border technology or surveillance technology, there was one technology that was a barrel cactus that was hollowed out and filled with surveillance cameras. So, wow, there's lots of barrel cactuses around us, cacti around us. So I was pretty convinced that whatever, that David's action might have been detected by something. But when we turned around, and I'll get to the Border Security Expo in a second because I want to explain that a little bit more. But when we turned around, lo and behold, first, we are near what is called a forward operating base. And I don't know if anyone's heard of forward operating bases before. Forward operating bases have been used in also war scenarios such as Iraq and Afghanistan. And they're generally put in isolated areas or areas in which the military wants to expand into those areas. Now it's being used in the borderlands, in the southwest borderlands, and the Border Patrol has 2 of them on the Tonaultam Nation and several of them in Arizona, and probably dozens of them along the U.S.-Mexico boundary. So we're about 1 mile away from one of these forward operating bases. So when we turn around, we see it, and it's just a rudimentary kind of station with just a kind of an antenna there. And in front of the antenna there's a vehicle coming at us. It looks pretty fast because there's dust. It's like a cloud of dust coming. And David and I look at each other and we go, yep, we know what's about to happen. But I'll get to what happens in a second, but first I want to ask a couple questions. Does anybody know how many Border Patrol agents there were in the early 1990s? Does anybody know when the Border Patrol was formed? Border Patrol was formed in 1924. So if you think about it, from 1776 to 1924, there wasn't a Border Patrol. There were different agencies that might have done a little patrolling of the border, but there was no Border Patrol. 1924, when the Border Patrol was formed, it was about 800 agents, a little under 1,000, most of them in the north, more than half of them in the north. From the 1924 to 1990, the growth of the Border Patrol was approximately from 1,000 to about 4,000 agents. Then, the growth of the Border Patrol from the early 1990s, from about 4,000